Hello and welcome everyone to Cowboys Takeover podcast. I'm your host Jason Kent, and draft week is upon us. We are 2 days from the draft. Something I think Aaron and I have looked at very closely because they haven't made any real moves in free agency. So let's bring in the other half, the better half, some would say, Mr. Aaron James. Aaron, how you feeling this week? It's draft week. You excited? You kind of like blasé, like, we don't really know where they're going to go because it's, at this point, we don't think it's going to be a sexy pick. So
right.
What are your thoughts going into this Thursday night?
Yeah, it's like another year where we're in the 20s in the NFL draft. And to your point, if you're not in the top 10, you're likely not going to get a sexy pick. So that kind of takes a little bit of excitement out of the room. But now we have a lot of gaps, and we haven't really done anything in the off season quite yet. So it's going to be quite meaningful to see what moves we make day one off the bat.
So I know we're going to go into our thoughts, what we think they should do later.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see any chance where they trade up or down, or do you think they're going to stay put?
I could see them potentially jumping because we do have a good amount of draft capital. So if there's somebody that they want, I could see them jumping. But I don't think they're overly desperate to jump. My prediction would be that they stay where they are.
Okay, I like that. So let's dive right into it. This week, you and I were going through and looking through a bunch of different mock drafts. This time of year, there's probably hundreds and thousands of them at this point. So, I tend to look at CBS, kind of the big ones, ESPN and NFL. And a couple of the names we looked at, you're not shocked. I think every Cowboys fan would say they're not really, it's kind of expected with some of these names. And I'll just start with The Athletic. When I was looking through them, they had Graham Barton. ESPN has him ranked as a center. Yeah, they have him ranked as the number 1 overall center, 19th overall, 18th overall player, 90 first center, 91 grade. He did start all 34 games at left tackle, but ESPN kind of is projecting him to move into center. So that was a pick I'm really not shocked of. Like when you go through these different picks, and we'll list them all. The next one I had Jackson Powers Johnson, another center. ESPN has him ranked at. They have him. They don't have him ranked as high. He's the number 2 center, but he is now the 58th overall projected guy. That's a big drop to me when you have the number 1 center at 19, number 2 at 58. But when you're looking at that, is there any shock? Just on we'll go over a couple more. But is there any shock to you so far there? And what are your thoughts on these two players? Are these guys you think they're probably looking at?
Yeah, I got to believe they're looking at him. Since we lost our center to Dan Quinn, definitely, Biotish, someone we got to replace. Now it's a big jump to go from 18th to 58th overall, so you're kind of depleting your value. And for someone you can potentially get in the second round, if that's the case. But these grades, you kind of take them with a grain of salt, because we see time and time again, lower draft picks outperform top draft picks.
Yeah, but to me, man, I just hope they're not looking at it. At this point, they probably are going to go bigger need, but I don't want them to overreach on a guy. Like I'd really, if there's a guy there that you have ranked much higher, for example, with the Jackson Powers Johnson having ranked 58th, I don't want that reach. So that's something I know they do their analysis and they kind of know who they want, but man, that's a tough sell for a first round pick.
Yeah, I get where you're coming from.
But, and then, we have 2 more. We have, so the next 2, another offensive lineman and a linebacker. So the offensive lineman you were looking at, right? CBS had Amarius Mims, right? Am I pronouncing that correctly?
Yep.
And it's
a big boy.
he is a big boy. ESPN, he's from Georgia, and they just breed animals on that line. But he's 6'8", 340 pounds. ESPN has him ranked the 4th overall tackle, a 19th overall grade. So he started just 8 games at right tackle, but they have him as one of the dominant players in the draft. That's a guy. When you brought that name up to me, out of all the names, even the one we're going to bring out, next, that's the one that intrigues me the most. I don't think he's going to drop to 24. But to me, that's a guy. If he starts to go down and you really see value, I'd love to go up and get, because they've shown me they've really made good choices at drafting offensive linemen. So if there's somebody there, even though, we said Jackson Powers Johnson, rank lower, they've shown me they know how to scout offensive linemen well enough with, Tyron Smith, Frederick Martin, Tyler Smith. Biotish wasn't terrible. I forget the right tackle they brought in as the free agent a few years back because he had some issues, went undrafted, and he went on. Lyle Collins went on to sign for a huge deal. So this is an organization that really knows how to scout offensive linemen. So that one excites me a lot, because if they go get him, he's ready to go, and that's a big boy you can plant in there almost anywhere on that offensive line. He's going to make an impact.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, if we can get the same amount of production from these names that we're talking that we got from Tyler Smith, I mean, we're rocking.
I agree. Dude, it's going to be beautiful. They draft well. Like, I was looking through, so we'll go over it later, some of the first round picks. And, you have 3. Tyron Smith, to me, is a Hall of Famer. Zach Martin is a Hall of Famer. And Frederick was well on his way to being a Hall of Famer before his medical issues. So I think, and to me, that's where the consensus is. I really think Dallas is looking offensive line. I don't know how would they lose 3 offensive linemen this year. I think they re-signed 1. I don't even know if they re-signed. I don't think they re-signed any offensive linemen in free agency.
Edoga, like a second string offensive lineman. Yeah, we re-signed. And I think we still have Lyle Collins under contract. I'm not sure, because remember we brought him in.
Oh, they did bring him in late last year.
So depending on his level of dedication and recommitment, we know he's close to with Dak. Wants to protect his bud. They may have other things.
He's not. He's signed in Buffalo. Yeah, I just Googled it because I wanted to make sure. But
dang.
Listen, it was tough because when you lost, I thought Tyron Smith was going to come back. I really thought they would figure a way out, let him end his career a Cowboy, bring him back for another year. That one hurt. And then I didn't think they would lose Biotish as well. So it's really a tough situation, but those 3 picks, you can't really be upset even if they have to reach a little bit for an offensive lineman, that's kind of where they're at in the position they put themselves in, that they're going to have to start a rookie lineman in Dak's final year of his contract. It's going to be tough. And then the last one from NFL.com. This one, not an offensive lineman, the first one I saw, but they had Junior Colson. He's a linebacker from Michigan. I didn't really see much of them play this year, but they do have him ranked as the number 4 overall linebacker but the 50th overall player at the game. He did start 36 overall games at Michigan, and he led the team in tackles the last 2 seasons. They say he's really good, able to get through the block, hit the gap. So, and that's another position that Dallas is lacking sorely. You really hope. I forget the kid from Baylor, right? You sent me that article where Overshawn, where he's really bulking up and he's really looking. They liked him a lot last year in the preseason, but you really wouldn't be shocked either if they spent that first round pick on a middle linebacker. What are your thoughts? You see that as well? It's not really a big shock to you as well?
It's not a huge shock because obviously in our depth chart, that's where we need to make up ground. But the fact that we brought in Kendricks, I would be kind of surprised if Cowboys went there for their first pick. I think Damian Clark, who I think led the team in tackles, showed that he can. He's shown growth, promising growth in the position, great speed. Um, and so we're still looking for, we got Sean Lee, Van Der Esch. We're kind of looking for that next guy in line that can come in and really take command of that defense. Parsons was promising in that position, but what I noticed early on in his rookie year, especially, is when the offensive linemen get to that second level where Parson was, and once they got their hands on him, like he just couldn't peel off.
Yeah. And I did kind of forget about Kendricks, but you don't expect him to stay long. So it wouldn't
Right,
shock
that's
me
true.
to have somebody come in and kind of groom him up, especially if it's somebody you really like. Listen, again, this guy, he's ranked 50th overall. So that's, it's not even an early second. That's a mid to late round second pick. So I'm just hoping on some of these guys, they're not reaching for need. They need a thumper in there. They do need a linebacker. I do think Kendricks fills that for this season. I do think they'd be better suited to go offensive line if they stay put with that, their pick. But I to myself, I prefer offensive line over a linebacker at this point. Would you kind of agree with that?
Yes, 100%.
So if you're picking, when you have your kind of pick of the litter, we did say it earlier, you think they stay put. Who are you going if you're kind of ideal? Because, even Amarius Mims, he's ranked 19th. So that's a guy you could see dropping 5 spots. Who are you looking at? Who do you kind of want them to shoot for? And is there any name that if you said, hey, if this person starts to drop a decent amount, we should trade up and try to give up and go get someone?
Yeah, I do suspect that there will be a good amount of shuffling this year in the NFL draft. I just think there's just too much interest in teams in dire need for different position players, and some even with high picks that can afford to go down a little bit based on their need. We have a deep wide receiver class, pretty good quarterback class. So given those circumstances, I do think we can potentially sneak away with a Mims. And if we have to go up, 2 picks to get him, I think the Jones will be prepared for that. I do like. So Mims would be my number one priority given his size, and we've had the debate outside tackle or center, which one is more meaningful or impactful.
Yes.
But I guess at the same time, Terrence Steele is our guy. But if we can look to move, Mims into the guard position and complement Martin on the other side, I guess I don't recall if you mentioned Travis Frederick, right, as another O lineman
Big
pick
time. Yeah.
that we
Huge.
brought in.
And just, yeah, if it wasn't to me, like listen, I think Travis or Jason, I'm not trying to say Jason Kelsey wasn't a great player.
Mhm.
But I think a lot of his awards came kind of after Frederick couldn't play anymore because of his injury or his disease. But, so that tells you the level of talent of Travis Frederick. He was at his peak, he was the best center in the game, until he really couldn't go anymore. So yeah, they know how to draft.
They do.
When I look at it, to me, there's a couple guys I really think that I would be okay. If Amaris Mims drops to us, I'm okay with them going after JC Latham. I think he may be, he's ranked the 24th overall guy. So that kind of fits in perfect where you're at. He can play right tackle. So I'd be okay as well if they did get Graham Barton. They do need a center.
Yeah.
I think that's a big position. I think if you could get the kid from Penn State, I'm not going to, it's to the offensive tackle. Oli Muyawa Fashanu. I probably butchered that. Somebody he may drop. He's 17, so like him and Mims, if you could want to go up a pick or two to go get them. But I don't know if there's really anybody else in this draft that if I'm Dallas, I'm like, man, I need to go get that particular player. I was kind of looking through. They don't really need an edge guy, but I do think if they do go off script, I think it'll either be a quarterback, a receiver, an edge rusher, and that'll tell you a lot about what they're going to do with the other two guys. So listen, I'm not projecting them go get a quarterback or trade up for a quarterback or go trade up for, Marvin Harrison Jr. or anything like that. But, because listen, the quarterbacks, there's a couple quarterbacks that could drop. And I do think, I'm not saying I would, but I think if one of those quarterbacks starts to fall out of the top 5, 6, 7, Dallas could really think about going and getting one. It depends, if you feel like you don't want to pay Dak. And I would be okay with that. Because you let him sit behind Dak for a year.
You could. I think if you draft a quarterback in let's just say even the first or second round, I think the higher the likelihood that we end up keeping McCarthy despite of how the season goes. Because he's had Rodgers, he's had Dak, and you're gonna have to analyze. Okay, we picked up this guy, and who did we have in mind in mentoring him?
Yeah,
right.
Listen. Just think of the year 2016. Your team just gets done the playoffs. I forget what the record is. Let's say they had the 27th pick, so they were 10-6. They're a good team. You keep winning your division, you lose in the playoffs. You got a pretty decent quarterback. Just had a solid year. You trade from number 27 to number 14, and you know who you draft. To 27 to 10. You go and draft Patrick Mahomes, okay? Nobody thought the Kansas City Chiefs were going to trade up and go get Patrick Mahomes. I think this could be Dallas's year to go make a move like that and alter your franchise. Because I just don't think Dak's the guy. So I'm going to throw it out there. I wouldn't be surprised if they traded up. If one of the quarterbacks started dropping, they went and got him. And let Dak, Dak seems professional enough where he'd mentor him. Dak's a professional dude. So Dak, give him that year of, expertise. And you can even deal Dak in the draft. Minnesota's got a couple first round picks. If they're looking not to draft a quarterback and they want somebody established, maybe you get some additional draft capital and you go up and go get your quarterback.
I mean, if there was any interest in that, I would have said, go get Justin Fields.
I don't think Justin Fields was that good of a player. I don't think Justin Fields is an upgrade.
I think he has the ceiling that Justin Fields has is, I think, greater than anyone I see coming up in the draft. And let's not forget, we have Trey Lance that we're sitting on, that we're mentoring. And I'd be interested in that project as a succession plan for Dak.
Okay. I don't disagree. If they see something in Trey Lance, I don't think Justin Fields, I've seen a lot of him in the, pro, like to think he's not. But, that's neither here nor there. If you want to give Lance a shot, he's still young. My only issue with that is the dude, the dude's thrown 400 passes since 2018. Like, the farther out you get without him actually playing an actual game of football, the less likely I think there is a chance for him to succeed. So that's kind of tough. But listen, I'm not saying it's going to happen. I do think they're going to take an offensive lineman, whether it be one of the centers and one of the guard or the tackles. I think at the end of the day, that's where they're going. That's the biggest need. And and that's where, we'll draft into the best pick, I think, in recent memory. When you're looking back, what pick to you did you look at as the shift to kind of the organization?
This is really tough. There's been some really good picks that we've made. We talked about some O linemen.
Yes.
I mean, Tyler Smith is an all pro. We got Diggs. You see Bland making history in his short tenure, and he was out of Fresno State, a D1 Mountain West conference where you don't see a whole lot of draft capital coming out of California. I'm going to go with, and this might be predictable to a certain degree, and he's, yes, fan favorite. But I just go back and I look at the tape and I look at the immediate impact. I'm going.
It's tough
for Zeke.
Really.
I'm going with Zeke.
See, I was going farther back.
Okay. All right.
I was going farther back. I'm cool with Zeke. Zeke to me, at the time I totally understood it. You thought you were going to have Romo. So at the time, that was huge. That was a pick. Looking back, I kind of wish we drafted Ramsey. That's neither here nor there. But at the time, you had Romo, a championship caliber team. All he needed was that run game. So that was a great pick. To me, the big decision, the toughest decision, because when I look at Dallas throughout the years, man, they were always known as trying to pick the flashy dude and all of that. I almost went back to 05 when they took Ware, but I'm like, nah, I can't go back that far. Like, I remember that pick. I loved it. To me, the tough decision was 2010 or 2011, because that's kind of where you see Dallas really start to hit. The Dez Bryant was very predictable because you know how Jerry felt about wide receivers and missing on Randy Moss. And he said, listen, I wasn't going to let that guy go, but it's tough to go against Tyron Smith too. Like, I think that right there, those guys, Dez luckily hit. Tyron Smith, Hall of Famer. So that's where they really started that draft of, they got Tyron Smith. They kind of missed on Claiborne, but then they hit Frederick and Martin in back-to-back years. Then you go get Byron Jones. So that really, that Dez, Tyron Smith, that started that trend of just fantastic drafting. It stinks because all of that drafting has been for naught because they haven't been able to turn it into a Super Bowl. Not even an appearance, not even an NFC championship game appearance, but they're drafting very well. And if you continue to do that, eventually you're going to get there. I think at the end of the day, with the way they're doing it, they're going to get there. You just hope it's soon. It's tough because they've had some great picks when you look throughout the years.
They really have. I mean, Byron Jones, right?
Yeah.
We let him walk, and that was a good decision. We talked about all our O linemen, our tight ends.
Even the year Van Der Esch got drafted, there was a lot of talk they were going to get Calvin Ridley, and everyone knew they needed. The fan base was like, we need linebacking. Mm-hmm. And they really, I think they shocked everybody. Took the best available linebacker in Van Der Esch, and hey, it was worked out until it didn't because of his neck injuries. But they've shown they're doing the right thing, and you just kind of keep hoping they do that.
It's really hard for a rookie to come in and have a great impact on a team. But when you look at our roster, and especially on the defensive side, you got shutdown corners, you got D-Law, and you got Parsons. I think there is an opportunity now. We're saying it's likely going to be an offensive line pick, but an opportunity even maybe for a second rounder to come in and have moments to show some crucial moments to showcase what they can do and make that 5% or 10% difference that we need. And but ultimately there's a lot of work to do. I mean, other teams are getting better, and we weren't even good enough to get out of the first round last year. So
that's a tough way to put it, but you're exactly right. We're not getting I don't know if it's just Eric Kendricks makes us better. I think we're a worse team right now than we were at the end of that
Yes.
and that champion or the NFC wildcard game.
Mhm.
But they just need to keep plugging them in. I agree with your point. I think, even a later round pick with some of the areas, if you're a late round linebacker, safety, offensive lineman, hey, I can come in if I perform. I got a good shot to make this team and play at a high level. So I think it's very crucial for all of Dallas's picks, to come in and perform. But I really want to see what they do with that first overall, or their first rounder, their 24th overall. I want to see what they do with that. But yeah, I'm a little excited. I kind of think it's going to be an offensive lineman, but we will be here Thursday night live when they do pick. So it's the draft, so we kind of never know when. If they trade up, we'll try to get on as quick as possible to come live with that. But if not, we'll be on probably and say like 3-4 picks beforehand, kind of going over, see who's left, kind of going through some of the reports of the guys that they're looking at, and we'll just bring a little feedback once the pick is had. But again, we want to appreciate and thank each and every one of the listeners, the followers. We just really appreciate you guys checking in and giving us a follow, giving us a like. You can check us out on all of our social medias, the Cowboys Takeover podcast, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, and the same on YouTube. So give us a follow, give us a like, smash all those like buttons and subscribe. And you guys can, every time we go live, you guys will be here to listen. We appreciate each and every one of you. Can't wait to see you Thursday night. Let's hope we trade up. Let's make a big splash. If not, let's go offensive lineman. Enjoy your evening, everyone. We'll see you Thursday night.